There are people who live quietly among us. People who carry stories inside their bones. Stories so powerful they can change the direction of someone else's life. And sometimes, without warning, you meet a person who challenges the limits of what you believed was possible. A person who forces you to question your excuses, your doubts, your fears. A person who silently shows you that strength has no age, that time bows to the heart that refuses to stop. This is the story of one such man. A man who lived far away from noise, far away from fame. A man the world had forgotten, but he hadn't forgotten himself. This is the story of the old man who outran time. Part 1. The Visit. I was 22 years old when my life felt like an unfinished sentence. Every day looked the same. Wake up, complain, delay, sleep, repeat. I believed I had dreams, but dreams without action are simply comfortable illusions. That summer, my mother forced me to accompany her on a trip to a remote mountain village. Meet your grandfather's old friend, she said. You'll like him. I didn't want to go. I had plans that involved doing absolutely nothing. But I went anyway. The village was quiet, too quiet. The mountains rose like ancient guardians, their tops dissolving into the sky. The air tasted pure, untouched by the rush of the world I came from. And then, I met him. He was sitting outside a tiny wooden house, a cup of tea in his hand, watching the mountains as if he were reading a book only he could understand. He must have been around 80, maybe older. His back was straight, his eyes bright and alive. He smiled at me, not the forced smile adults give to young people, but a genuine, warm smile, as if he already knew me. You're late, he said. Late? For what? I didn't understand. But he stood up, stretched his arms, and said, Come, we run before the sun leaves. Run? I almost laughed. This man could be my great-grandfather. But before I could protest, he had already started walking toward the trail. My mother whispered, Go with him. You will remember this day. She was right. The old man's name was Baba Noor. People in the village spoke of him as if he were a legend. A man who had run every single day for more than 60 years. Not for medals, not for competition, not for applause, but for life itself. I followed him reluctantly, expecting to wait while he jogged at the pace of an old bicycle with a flat tire. But I was wrong. The moment he started running, he moved like water flowing down a mountain. Smooth, steady, effortless. And I was already breathing heavily. How was this possible? He was almost 80. I was 22. He should be struggling. But he wasn't. He looked back at me, laughed, and said, Young people run with their legs. Old men run with their hearts. I tried to keep up. My lungs burned. My legs shook. The trail twisted upward like a question mark written by nature. And then he spoke again, his voice steady even as we climbed. Everyone thinks time is their enemy. But time is only an enemy if you let it pass without purpose. We reached a ridge where the sun spilled across the mountains, painting everything gold. He stopped, not because he was tired, but because he wanted me to feel it. The wind, the silence, the height, the truth. Sit, he said. I sat beside him, barely able to breathe. You're not tired, he told me. You're untrained. There's a difference. I looked at him, confused. He continued, You think life is difficult because you are weak. But life is difficult for everyone. Strength comes from doing what you avoid, from facing what you fear, from waking up every day and choosing progress over excuses. I had never heard anyone speak like that. Calm, direct, unapologetic. Why do you run every day? I asked. He smiled again, the kind of smile that hides entire histories. To remember who I am, he said, and to never forget who I was. Part 3. The past he never escaped. Later that evening, he invited us for dinner. The house was simple, wooden walls, a small table, a shelf of old shoes lined neatly like trophies of a journey no one had witnessed. After dinner, he motioned for me to follow him outside. We sat under the sky, thousands of stars scattered like diamonds across black velvet. And then he told me his story. He had been a soldier in his youth. Not by choice. Life forced him into it. War took everything from him. Friends, family, even the love of his life. Loss filled his chest like stones. After the war, he returned home. A broken man carrying memories that refused to die. One night, unable to sleep, unable to breathe, he stepped outside and started running. Not to get fit, not to escape, but because he didn't know what else to do with the pain inside him. He ran until dawn, and when the sun rose, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. A small, fragile sense of control. So he ran the next day, and the next, and the next, until running became his therapy, his medicine, his prayer. People think I run because I'm strong, he said softly. But I run because I refuse to surrender to the things that tried to break me. The wind whispered through the trees as if listening. I had never seen pain and strength woven together so beautifully. The next morning, he knocked on my door before sunrise. We run, he said simply. My body protested. My mind tried to bargain. But something in me had changed. We ran again. This time farther. Higher. Harder. I fell twice. My legs screamed for rest. He never scolded me. He never slowed down. He only said, "Pain is the price of entry. If you want a different life, you must be willing to sweat for it." On the fourth day, I reached my breaking point. Halfway up the mountain, I stopped. "I can't," I gasped. "It's too much." He turned around, looked at me, and said quietly, "You are capable of far more than your mind allows you to believe. This mountain is not defeating you. Your thoughts are." I wanted to cry. From frustration, from exhaustion, from the realization that I had spent years avoiding effort. He came closer and placed a hand on my shoulder. "Young man, the world is full of people who grow old without ever growing strong. Don't be one of them." And then he walked ahead. Something inside me snapped, not in defeat, but in awakening. I began to run, slowly at first, then faster still. Each step felt like breaking free from a version of myself I no longer wanted to be. By the time I reached the ridge, he was standing there, waiting. He didn't clap. He didn't cheer. He simply nodded. Approval from a man like him was worth more than 100 compliments from the world. On my last day in the village, I sat with him again, watching the sunset paint the mountains in shades of fire. "I wish I could be like you when I'm old," I said. He chuckled softly. "You don't become like me when you're old. You start becoming like me when you're young." He handed me something wrapped in cloth. When I opened it, I found one of his old running shoes. Worn, torn, but preserved with love. "Why give this to me?" I asked. "Because it carries the weight of every day I refuse to give up. And now, I want you to carry the next chapter." I didn't speak. I couldn't. He looked at me one last time. "Listen carefully," he said. "Time is not running against you. Time is running with you. But it will not slow down for your excuses. One day, your body will fail. Your strength will fade. Your breath will weaken. And when that day comes, the only question that will matter is this: did you use your years? Or did you waste them?" The sky grew darker, the air colder, the wind heavier. But inside me, something was burning brighter than ever before. Part 6. Years later. I returned home a different person. I stopped postponing my life. I began waking up early, running every morning, slow at first, then steady, then strong. I started studying with purpose. I worked toward goals I once believed were too far away. Months passed, then years. One winter morning, I received a message from his village. Baba Noor had passed away, peacefully, in his sleep. The news broke something inside me, but it also awakened something greater. I returned to the mountains for his funeral. The villagers told me that on the last day of his life, he had gone for a run, 83 years old, and he ran until the end. At his empty house, I placed the old shoe he gave me on his shelf of memories. And then, I ran his trail, not to honor him, but to continue him. As I stood on the same ridge where he once stood, I whispered into the wind. You didn't outrun time. You taught me how to run with it. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I understood what it meant to live. If you ever feel tired of life, if you feel older than your age, if you feel your dreams slipping away, remember this. You are not running out of time. You are running out of excuses. Start today. Start slow. Start afraid. Start uncertain. Start with shaky legs and a trembling heart. Just start. Because somewhere in the mountains of this world, an old man who outran time is smiling, knowing that his story has reached you.